Hello, Facebook, family and friends. How are y'all tonight? You are joining Renee and Glenn for Heart Talks. And once again, we are back to have another discussion. Tonight's discussion, I'm so excited. First of all, before we even get started, I want to start with this. Today, I don't know why I look up random stuff, but the thing I looked up today was about grace. And I wanted to know what was the history behind why people say grace. Like, why don't they say your gratitude before
Say your
you leave?
grace. Yeah. Oh, I'm
Yo,
interested in
why do
this,
they say
yo.
yeah,
I know
so
the
why do
answer. So I'm interested. I'm ready. I'm excited about what you're about to share because I know the answer. But go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead. I want to
Okay.
hear you.
Well, I don't know if it's the same. This is what I found. So this
Okay.
was in my research. I just be looking at random stuff, y'all. I'm sorry. So in my research, I found that grace is actually the Latin term for giving thanks. So it's actually the Latin term for getting thanks, and it's
Yeah.
called gratia something.
Yep.
So grace actually means giving gratitude. So I thought about something. And I thought, why do we only say grace before eating? Why don't we say grace before we enter into any experience? Because any experience that we have that we enter into as a willing and everything is like by choice is going to bless us. And I think that if we entered into places with grace, that we would actually have a more fulfilling experience if we
Yeah.
enter in not knowing, but expecting a blessing from the experience. And I just wanted to share that with you
Yeah.
because I think that that is such a meaningful way to enter into space. So tonight, I want you all to enter into this experience with grace because we are about to bless you with some amazing information from our hard work. Oh God, from all of our hard work that we have put in. And we're going to tell you a story about purpose tonight and what happens when you enter into purpose with passion. Right,
Yeah.
Glenn?
Definitely.
Okay, so tonight's topic is about the heart, how to listen to your heart. It is about an assessment that we have created from Heart Work Leadership so that you can start the healing process.
Yeah. 1000%.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
about starting that healing.
It's
People,
about isn't it? It's about we're gonna talk about recovery and discovery tonight. Recovery.
ooh,
We're gonna talk about
recovery
recovery and
and
discovery.
discovery.
Yeah.
And I watched Oprah and we talked. I think I've talked about this before. And the person that she was talking to, I think it was hey Jessica, I think it was about Whitney Houston, and she was saying to her, people always tell you that you need to do something, but they never tell you how. They tell you you need to heal, but they never tell you how to heal, where to even get started. So tonight's discussion is about a gift that we
Yeah.
are going to give out and make available to people just about how you can get started on your healing journey. So
Yeah.
let's start by talking about the assessment in terms of how we all got started.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful story. I swear, y'all. It's such a beautiful story of purpose. I swear. Discovery and recovery. Honestly.
So I haven't told this story in a long time, actually. Um, you know, when I was writing the first book, Heart Work, um, I tell the story in the book, but because the story happened so many years ago, you know, it was kind of the guiding principle kind of behind the process of writing the book. So when we talk about the hard work profile and the assessment itself, it does begin now almost going on 9 years ago. So the story begins around 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I want everybody to realize that, the story may begin 9 years ago, but there's a story before the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where the story begins.
That's what I'm excited to talk about. Yes.
You want the story before the story?
I want the story before the story because
Gotcha.
I love that story. I think the story before the story adds so much intent and purpose to why you even began this journey.
Yeah.
And when I hear that story, and I think about how many times you've recovered, discovered, it's an amazing love story, truly.
Yeah,
with yourself.
It's a self-love story, right?
Yeah, with yourself. It's a love story with yourself. So let me grab my tea.
So I'm gonna stop boring y'all. We're gonna jump into it. Look. So those who know me don't know me. Look, I grew up in Atlanta. My parents were separated. My parents separated. What's up, Chief?
Hey.
My parents separated when I was a baby. So I grew up in Atlanta. I was born in Los Angeles, but I grew up in Atlanta. And the story really starts from the point in which I remember my first recollection of, my dad leaving my home when I was 5 years old. And I talk about this in the book. It's the first paragraph of the first book. I talk about the power of the experience of being left. And anybody listening, know that if you ever been left, if you ever felt like you're being left, someone's leaving you, it doesn't matter who it may be, but the intense power of feeling of being abandoned will shift your inner core. Like it'll shift your inner core and it'll stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And that's the first paragraph in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first paragraph in the book because it's the most powerful experience that sets the tone for what happens over the next 40 years. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the story really elevates through experiences with my mother, with my professional career, but really, to your point, is about a self-love story, and not the love story that says, oh, I love myself so much. There's nothing that, can go wrong in my life. I'm amazing. No, it's not that type of self-love story. It's a story of recovery of the absence of love, the ongoing recovery of the absence of love, while going on discovery of love. I want to say that. I don't know if everybody experienced this before. If you ever been absent of something while at the same time trying to discover the same thing you're absent of, the problem exists in that middle, in that delta. The problem exists that the thing that you're searching for is the thing that you're absent for, but you don't even know how the hell it looks. I'm telling you, hold on now.
The thing that you're searching for is the thing that you're absent for, but you don't even know what it looks like.
You don't know what it looks like.
You just know that people have told you that it feels good.
It feels good. You heard.
That's all you know. You see people. You see love in people. You see people in love. You see people in love with their parents, with their fathers, with their mothers. You see people with it. And you just know that it feels good. Ain't that something? You never experienced it, but you know.
You heard or looks good. You right about that, Jess?
Yeah, or looks good.
You heard the rumor, like you heard the rumor, like you see it, and so you're searching for it. And so hard work for me was always about the recovery from the absence of love. And the discovery and the search for love. The story is about how the discovery, the search, can find you in spaces and places that are not healthy for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
The book tells about the stories of my maturation in trying to find something, not knowing that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
The way I entered relationships, the way I entered my professional relationships, my jobs, my career, the way I developed relationship, the way I entered and exited relationship, the way I saw life, the way I experienced life, the abuses that I inflicted upon myself
Mm-hmm.
through drugs and alcohol
Mm-hmm.
and just doing things to deaden the recovery space. I don't know if somebody heard me on that one though.
You better preach.
To deaden the recovery space. So if you've
Mm-hmm.
ever been in that space where you're asking yourself, why am I always doing this? Why am I always going down this road? The question is, what am I trying to deaden? The
Mm-hmm.
question is, what am I trying to minimize?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the story begins in that space. I was deadening that recovery from the absence of love. But fast forward. When you get to a place in life where you have a decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to a place in life where something tells you, okay, it's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
And that watershed moment happened when two things were happening in my life.
Mm-hmm.
One, about to have my first child.
Mm-hmm.
And two, about to take on a job that I was scared shitless about, like literally.
Mm. What scared you about that job, about taking on that job?
So really what scared me about taking on that job was that I had really never supervised that many people
Mm-hmm.
who were non-exempt.
So when you say that many people non-exempt, how many people are we talking about roughly? You may not remember exactly.
180 plus people.
Wow. Okay. And they were you were their direct.
Well, I wasn't their direct supervisor.
But you were responsible for what happened to them.
But yeah, they were one level removed, right? So they were,
right. So you were responsible. You weren't directly, but you were responsible.
I was responsible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you have people that are not exempt, I'm used to dealing with people who are exempt. They work until the job's done. We work until it's, but when you got
people like, it's time for me to clock out.
But when you are working with a staff, a workforce that says, hey, I clock in, I clock out.
Right. And
and bye.
You want me on time, then you want me off on time. Right. Mm-hmm.
I knew that was going to be different for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I was having a new child and not knowing, never being a father before. So I had two new things in life that were saying to me, I don't care how you've done it before, but actually, not only do I not care how you've done it before, you've never done this before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Stay employees. She's like, stay employees. Like, you've never done this before.
Mm-hmm.
And because you've never done this before, how you've done anything is there's a saying out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying out there. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you something. In this case, that saying didn't hold water, because how I did anything was not how I would do everything at this point. And the reason why was because I had never done anything like this before.
Right.
I had never had a child before.
Mm-mm.
I had never been a supervisor of non-exempt people, that a workforce that clocks in, clocks out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I knew that two things had to happen. I had to do a self-check on my stuff.
But how awesome is it that you could put yourself in check? Because a lot of times what people do is they enter into situations thinking, this situation just needs to, they don't think that they're thinking that way, but their behavior says it, like they just need to accommodate to me and how I do things.
Look, listen, I was also going in where, listen, I talk about this in the book, my marriage was falling to pieces, right?
Mhm.
So like I knew that I was not winning. Right? Like I need folks to be real, like honest with themselves. Like look,
Yeah.
listen, when you're not winning, but not only are you not winning, like
Mhm.
you're basically the contributing force to you not winning. Like you're the contributor. Like you
Right.
you
Some people fake it till they make it management. Yes,
like
exactly.
so look,
Yes.
and look, I knew that I had skills in certain areas, but I also knew that I wasn't winning in life. Meaning I was not showing up authentically like I should. And because of that, something had to change. What I realized was two things. I talk about this in the book as well. Two things.
Mhm.
One, a baby ain't gonna change to you.
Nope.
That's the first thing. Anybody ever listen? Anybody out there had a baby, had a kid, understands one thing. You're not gonna tell a baby what to do.
First of all, and let me tell you, if that wasn't your scariest job, look.
Listen.
I think that when I brought Carter home, I sat and stared at him for a good 6 hours, thinking, what had I done to myself?
Look,
you can't put him back.
Listen, these are the realizations. Listen.
Yes, it's the realization.
I knew that all my stuff that I had kind of deadened, was trying to unpack, but I didn't want to really unpack it. I put it to the side. Like I knew that I could not move forward in life trying to deaden everything with force, trying to deaden everything with drugs or alcohol, trying to deaden everything with everything that I was abusing myself basically to get away from. Like you can't do it with a baby. A baby does not care about your stuff. A baby needs you to show up because they have needs that must be met. And they're not concerned about basically transforming into what you need them to do. That's not how babies operate. Okay. So that's the first thing. You gotta be smart about this thing. Like I knew that I can't ask the baby to transform to me because the baby don't know. Like the baby's just baby. Like I have to transform to it. I have to restructure my mindset and my heart set. I can't yell at the baby.
But let's also make another point about that too. You also wanted to be a good father. Like you wanted to be the best you could be in the situation. So there's some pressure there because now you're thinking all of the things I've been doing, to try to make it, as Henry said, fake it till I make it management. Like all of those things, they're not going to fly anymore because now I have to be more intentional. Right.
So I wanted to be a good father. I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to look, I tell you, again, we come to a place in our life. Some people, later, some people sooner, where you ask yourself a very real question. Like, what the hell am I doing? Listen, many of you listening will be like, have you been in that place where you're like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And you have to answer the question at some point. And at this point, it was like, I want to answer the question. Like, I know that I was struggling. I don't want my little one to be struggling too, right? Like, so I got to figure some things out. Now, the question I asked at the job, right? I'm going into this new job. The question I asked, well, there's 100+ people in this building. I can't ask them to change to me. I can't ask the 100+ people to change towards me. I got to figure out how do I shift my mindset and my heart set to them? Because look, 100, it's easier for me to shift than 100+ people to shift, right?
Right.
They were the metaphorical baby. They were the body of people that it's impossible to ask 180 people to shift.
Well, it's even easier for you to change yourself than it is to expect 180 180 people to
And I want
accommodate you.
and I want to be mindful of words and language, right? At this juncture, it wasn't about change. And I know we
Mm-hmm.
talk about change. It wasn't about changing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want people to really,
Mm-hmm.
really grab a hold of this shift in language. This wasn't about
Mm-hmm.
changing me. This was about recovery and discovery, right?
Yes.
This is back to the words that I think these words matter. When people say, well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel as though I should change. Well, no, it's not about you changing. This is about recovery and
Mm-hmm.
discovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is about understanding that the way we show up really is connected and tied to our recovery and our discovery. It has nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do with change. This change
Right.
word is a very delicate word with people. So just throw change out.
Right.
And so I had to welcome the opportunity of recovery. I had to welcome the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity that I had been searching for things in life that I didn't really know how they looked. Um,
Right.
right. I had been self-medicating when I hadn't really owned up and talked through what I was medicating about. Right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so in those moments, the story begins about hard work. The story
Mm-hmm.
begins about what we now say about hard work is we say hard work is how we live, love, and lead from the inside out. That's where
Mm-hmm.
hard work began. It began about how do we live, love, and lead from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those moments, with a new baby, a new team, a new way of thinking and feeling, understanding that the way we do anything is not the way we do everything now. The way we do this thing is the way we're going to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, life kind of started. Um, I will say
Mm-hmm.
that I had not been truly living up to that point. I had not been living
Mm-hmm.
the life that I desired. It
Mm-hmm.
started there. It started there.
Wow. And then at that point, you leave. It's what point did you decide that not only do I need to make this shift, but now I need to make this transition to share all of the things that I learned about healing with the world?
Yeah, so it's years later, actually. So I think, going through and working at that major retailer, you know, for me, what I realized was one, that the way I moved from the way we do anything is the way we do everything to the way we do love is the way we do everything. Like,
Right.
that's what you tell me how you love, and I'll show you what type of life you live in. Like,
Right.
easily. And so for me, that meant that I was on now a new journey, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for the next few years, trust me, this didn't happen overnight. Still, like, the story. If you read the book, and like, the story continues, right? It was still discovery. It was discovery time. It was like, now I was going through recovery. Now I was openly and authentically able to go through discovery. Right now, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
owning up and kind of admitting to myself like what I was hurting about, really experiencing what that was about. And now I'm able to truly discover,
Mm-hmm.
who I am, actually, who I
Mm-hmm.
knew deep down inside, who I am, what I believe, what I feel, what I want out of life. And telling that story really was a process of actually getting before people, before audiences, leaders, and just start to share. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
literally the part of life, the first, I say 4 or 5 years of the Hard Work Leadership Group, which was at the time Leadership Matters Group,
Mm-hmm.
was about sharing the story about myself, but more importantly, connecting to people in the audience who were going through their own recovery and discovery,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't have any words necessarily to attach it to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to the point of telling the story was really about at a point of life's crisis, honestly,
Mm.
um, where things were happening around me where it was kind of like, oh, you're going to not be here forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's time to tell your story. It's the same thing that we tell people all the time in the room is like, as leaders, the most powerful thing you have in your arsenal is your story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the most powerful thing you have, like aside from skills, competencies, even your passion, the most powerful thing you have in your arsenal is your story as a leader, because
Your experiences, yeah.
the lived experience is something that every single human, regardless if they like you or hate you, every single human, if you tell that story from your heart, from your gut,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can captivate people. Like it can be captivating. It can literally capture someone, right? And so that's the superpower of every single leader if you use it wisely. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what happened. And I think, as we got to the point of, talking about and writing Hard Work, I always share that the title of Hard Work probably, and I'm not even exaggerating here, the title there was probably like 20 plus titles before Hard Work. It was easily 20 plus titles.
I remember, and I'm gonna fast forward us for a minute. I remember when I first started working with you, and I knew that the name was Leadership Matters. After the first thing you told me was to research heart intelligence, and I thought, okay, cool. So I started researching heart intelligence, and I was like, oh God, this is heart work. Like this is truly what we do here, especially after we had met several times. But
Yeah.
to my point, I was thinking, why are we not heart something? Like, why is it that we're not heart something? And then the next thing you know, you're like, yeah, we're heart work leadership group. And I thought that is so appropriate because one thing I can say, working with you is that yeah, we do a lot of heart discovery, not just working with you and Greg, like we do a lot of heart discovery, not just with work, like even in just getting to know each other, even in the compassion and the way we cheer each other on, we do that work.
Yeah.
Like we tell our stories to each other, and we do that work, getting even getting to know each other. And one of the things that we've been trying to do and what we decided, I remember when we first started working together, you came to Atlanta once. We met. Well, you came to Atlanta several times, but we met, and we met with one of our clients, and we were literally walking up and down the street, like, just meeting people that
Yeah.
you knew in Atlanta. Remember that?
Yeah.
And who would know that, like, literally a month later, the whole city was going to shut down, or the world was going to shut down,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I remember, like, why, God, why? What is this about? Because that really, for the plan we had in place,
Yeah.
that really like shut that whole plan down. It was
Yeah.
over. That plan was over. We knew that. And so my question is, do you want to talk a little bit about like how we came to all of this? Like how we moved from your discovery of your recovery discovery, that chapter of your life, how did it move us to a place where, oh my God, we're going, like, I'm working with Renee and now we're going to do this, but now, oh, Corona.
Yeah. So I think, for what the discussions we were having, I think, I have been in front of, audiences for some time, for some years. And I think, I already, prior to COVID, been thinking like we want a larger platform. Like we need a larger platform to talk about this work, because what we were finding, I think, in the rooms with clients was that it was like real, like powerful, work and conversations that we're having. We were getting into spaces where, maybe one time when you see somebody cry, or two times, but like when every time you're in the room and people are crying and, releasing and
I was like, wow,
and
I have never been to a professional development session where everybody's crying. Oh my goodness.
yeah, after a while, when that becomes kind of like a constant, you start thinking like, I think we're doing something a little deeper than just professional development, right? Like this isn't just professional development, right? And we know it kind of wasn't.
But that's what we were like. That's how they presented it to their staff or their team.
Yeah,
was so like, this is professional development. But I'm thinking to myself, this looks like therapy.
It feels like a little bit of therapy, right? But really,
even I was shedding tears in the mountains. Look.
Yeah, and so I mean, to that effect, though, I think, really this was about, we recognize as this is about the self-discovery that we typically we cut off at a certain point in our lives. Mm-hmm. It's about, at a certain point, whatever that may be in our growth and our maturation, we set aside recovery, we set aside discovery, and we just go to work. And the reality of it is that we really, as humans, we really thrive in curiosity, actually, if in fact that's what we do. If we're curious, like if we really consistently are curious about life, but really more so, but also about, ultimately, about ourselves as well, we thrive in that space. Actually, the only problem is that if it's not something that is encouraged or is a part of a culture that you're a part of, then it kind of falls by the wayside. I think pre-COVID, what I found was that I was thinking more about how does this experience in the room, reach everyone in the world, 1 billion people, 1 billion plus, right? Yeah. How does it reach everyone in the world? Like, how does what's happening right now, something that is so meaningful, something that is so obviously super powerful, to just have a conversation about gratitude and purpose and love and joy, and all these other expressions, how do we take this conversation in this room and make it where the world can receive it? And so right before COVID, we had a couple of conversations about, like, how do we create more digital space? How do we create, more digital experience right before COVID? Like, and we were thinking about it and toying with the idea.
Like, we gonna just teach a few classes online.
Yeah, we're like, we're gonna, probably go, dibble in the space. It's technology. We need to be in that anyway. But it wasn't really a big thing. It was just like, we know we need to have some type of digital presence, some type of online presence, right? We just don't know how that would look. But we'll get to it. We got time, right? And then COVID hits. And so I think when COVID hit, like, I hadn't finished the book, right?
No.
So when COVID hit, I started realizing like, also I just come, there was a lot of things that were happening, and I won't go into them, but I started realizing like, yeah, like I need to get this out of my head down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
think, all those things start happening at the same time. And what ultimately happened is, we got to hard work the book, but fast forward, we got to hard work profile, the assessment. And
Yay.
and I know you want to talk about that some as well.
Well, no, I just have to say something though. I want to
Yep.
just make sure, I want to be completely transparent here. When we first started talking about this digital space, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm about to share something that I've never shared before. I was in a very low place just in my life. Like I was really struggling um being back in the States. I
Hmm.
was really, I could not get my footing. Changing careers.
Yeah.
I threatened that before, but this was really happening. Changing careers, not knowing how I could be of value to Leadership Matters Group, because I've talked about this before, that I've never really known, because I've always lived as a chameleon to everybody that was around me.
Yeah.
I've never really known what I what my value is, and I've never um but I've also never really, and it didn't matter really what people told me my value was. I needed to know that. But then the other thing is, I never really knew um what my purpose was. I think,
Mm.
Glenn, I don't even think you knew this. I don't even think I had hobbies. Like I really was in search of myself.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I was in a low place. So I said all that to say that when we first started talking about Hardware Profile, and Glenn was like, I need you to do some write-ups for me on some stuff. And I thought to myself, um, I don't know how, I don't really know what I'm doing, because I'm thinking to myself, mm-mm, I don't even know. I'm gonna speak to this the way I speak to how the way I would speak to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that's, I was about to say,
It was
that's what makes
harsh.
it.
Look,
Yeah, but that's what makes it also really good.
but it was harsh. I was very harsh because those were the things I was saying to myself. I didn't
Yeah.
know why I was harsh, but I was saying what I would speak to myself, but that's how hard I am on myself. So when
Yeah.
we're talking about this assessment, Glenn and I started this assessment from the roots, like the seed. No, not the root, the seed.
Yep.
We literally started this from the seed, all because of Corona.
Yeah.
All because of Corona. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
Like we literally said we need some, so we saw the soil and opportunity in Corona to have time and the availability. And we also saw a lot of pain during Corona.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was not just the pain of the coronavirus, but it was also the pain of social injustice. And so we saw all of this pain, and we thought we're in trouble, as not just a nation but as a world. Like we're in trouble now. Here we have this election coming up, we're in
Hmm.
trouble. And so this assessment that we created was not just it was also about, Glenn and I's recovery and discovery on what was literally happening around us and inside of us.
Yeah.
So understanding that we started this, the seed of this is, so y'all listen, the seed of this assessment is so authentic and so natural and organic, right? That when it hit the soil, the roots just took. And in a process that we really did think was going to take not that much time, has literally been nurtured over time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, what, when we talk about the assessment, I mean, for me, it's really it's really about the research behind the heart work profile.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself, prior to probably 3 years ago, I consider myself a very laser focused practitioner. Like that was my experience, and that's what I leaned on heavily. But I think, when I decided to kind of go back to school, I went, I'm back at University of Charleston, West Virginia now, and I entered into the doctorate program. I think, that was a push for me to I was really interested in understanding the historical and scientific side of the practitioner experience. And so to really step into the scholar leader space, to really dig in around what I knew to be true, but I didn't have the language. And I like to always, I say that now because I heard Brene Brown, say one time, what makes her good and what she understands her gift is that she turns the subject matter that people have difficulty in articulating. She turns that subject matter and she gives it language.
Oh, she does. And she's really good at that.
Right. She's great.
And I think that's why people love her, because she does.
Hands down.
She helps you to imagine. Like when she's speaking, she has a way of painting a picture.
She gives you language. She gives you ability to speak about something that you may have difficulty or even discomfort speaking on. And so for me, I needed my language, right? I needed my scholarly language. I had my practitioner language, right? I need my scholarly language. And so the heart work profile comes from a place of saying, we have this work that we're involved in. We have this work that we believe in, that we're passionate about, that we understand to be true because we're practitioners. And because we're practitioners, we can speak that, if you're showing up with gratitude, you're showing up better than the next person. If you're showing up with purpose, you're showing up better than the person with gratitude. If you're showing up with gratitude, purpose, and love, you're showing up and you're showing out. Like, we understood that these aspects of human emotion, feeling, and behavior contributed to how people truly were necessarily only successful, but how them showing up basically translated into that success, right? It wasn't that they were the most skilled. It wasn't that they were the most competent. It was really that they showed up in a way, in a manner that spoke to it was the undercurrent of what heart-centered leadership is. But I didn't have the language from the scholarly side. And so,
but you had the experience. Your 7 year at the time we started working on, like, it was 7 or 8 years working with clients, and that helped you to develop what you were seeing.
And even the years research. Even the years prior to that, being in leadership, right? That practitioner experience, but that language. So digging into the research, right? So digging into the research around where the heart work profile comes from. It comes from the research. It comes from the Carol Dwecks of the world. It comes from the Brene Browns of the world. It comes from the Druffs of the world. It comes from the Maxwells of the world. It comes from so many researchers who have studied specific areas and spaces of the human existence from a living life standpoint, but also how does that translate into our leadership. Now, we dig deeper though, because what sets this assessment aside, the heart work profile, I think aside, distinguishes it, is that we are specifically and finally focused on heart-centered leadership expressions. Meaning, this isn't about your skill. This is about your heart, your mind, your wellness, and then how that shows up as well in your leadership. And so the research behind it tells us that, one, between 2 books that we've written, we have over 120 references. We reference over 120. We have 120 citations that
Mm-hmm.
speak to these expressions of heart centered leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
The studies behind gratitude, the studies behind love, like, people tell me, I remember we first started talking about leadership, leading with love, and people would kind of like not laugh, but they would kind of like it was almost uncomfortable for people to talk about leading with love, right? Because it was like, right. And then recently, one of my favorite authors, Steve Farber, last year, 2020, drops his book, Love is Just Damn Good Business.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, look, you gangster when you can write a book and literally about why love is just damn good business, right? Like
Right.
you in your lane when you can drop that book.
Right.
And so I read the book probably in like 3 days. I literally had to put it down day one because I was going so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's to say that the Heart Work Profile to many people will feel fuzzy and emotional and soft, when the reality of it is that the Heart Work Profile is natural
And courageous.
and courageous and open and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, and it speaks to our inherent and
Mm-hmm.
natural
Mm-hmm.
desires actually as humans.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And if
not
we're
that.
truly honest, it will give you a very good picture of who you are and what you're capable of.
Yeah, and it's not about the abnormal. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
about the normal. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually normal to show up with your heart in hand. It's actually more normal to show up with heart than without. It's it's actually more normal to show up loving people that you work with as opposed to trying to repress love. That's not
Mm-hmm.
normal. That's not normal.
No. And that's why it doesn't feel good by the end of the day. That's why a lot of times when we go to work trying to suppress our natural emotion of love, that's why at the end of the day, we are exhausted
Yes. And
because we
so
work so hard to not be normal.
and and so the profile, the Heart Work Profile, really is about saying, it's a self-assessment. It's about answering questions about your recovery and discovery. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's literally just that. It's
It's a
about
love story to
it's
you that
it's
you're going
a
to write to yourself.
it's your personal love story, right? Assessment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what I love about it is that this is the feedback we've gotten, and I love this feedback, is that it not only allows you to self-assess, it gives you opportunity to ask yourself some questions, right? It
Mm-hmm.
gives you
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to experience some exercises. It gives you opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to deepen the conversation with yourself, for yourself. But also you can use it, with your team or with your organization, right?
Yeah, that's going to be my next question to you. Like, can we talk a little bit about how, as a leader, I would use this like to help support my team?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that, you know, assessments are typically, unfortunately, used in vacuums, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
used in a way that, we take the assessment, you read the assessment, you find out something you know or you don't know, and then all of a sudden the assessment finds its
On the
way
shelf.
on the shelf or in the trash.
Right, right, right.
um, but when we talk about this Heart Work Profile, to me, it's like when you take it, you should probably be working on it for the next 12 months easily.
At
Like,
least.
at least. Like it's like literally like pick it up once a month and go to work on at least one thing, right? Because that's just how deep it is. So when you talk
Mm-hmm.
about the team, when we talk about culture and organizations and how do we create trusting, healthy cultures where teammates begin to work together, trust each other, believe in one another, they become interdependent. How do we create that type
Mm-hmm.
of culture? The Heart Work Profile is that type of assessment, right?
Oh God,
So,
hands down. Yeah.
right. So it's that type of assessment where like when everyone goes through it and then you come back to the circle and you're like, so tell me what you think about your assessment. Like, what's your takeaway? Like, yo, like I realized something. Like, let's talk about gratitude in the circle today, right? And you're talking about gratitude and you're reading your assessment and people are sharing their thoughts on what they found and questions that they have. What happens is it's not about necessarily disclosing all these things about yourself. What it is about having self-discovery to the extent to where you can now have a conversation in a group about maybe a big topic and now bring it in to how your lived experience connects to that topic. It can be gratitude, it can be design thinking, it can be heart intelligence, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a reference point now of how you look at you. And I want people to understand like that reference point of how I look at myself, because I answered these questions, right? And so it's basically saying to me, like, okay, this is how you actually look at yourself. These are things that some traits of things that identify like you in this space. And now as a group, you're able to have a conversation based on the same experience, but possibly different spaces in which you land.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're able to have that dialogue. Now you start building relationship, right? You start building connection. It's not always about we have to be best friends, but what it is about is that we are interdependent, and because we're interdependent, if we're able to speak on these topics, these expressions of heart-centered leadership in a way that is not only about being right or even being wrong, but about being open, right? About being vulnerable. That then we begin to be able to do something that we talk about throughout the assessment, and that's show up as our authentic selves. And
Yes.
that's the key.
That's the key. And understanding, folks, that the things that we have put into this profile, the energy that has been placed in this profile is based on our authentic and raw experiences with not just people, but with ourselves. Like, even in the middle of all of this, Glenn and I are still in a healing process. We're still in healing processes with everything in our lives. It's dynamic. Like, it doesn't just, you don't say, oh yeah, I'm healed. It doesn't happen that way. I mean, you spend an entire lifetime becoming who you are, and then you expect that, oh, if I read this book, it's going to do the trick. But the trick is, or if I take this profile, it's going to do the trick. No, now you have to do the work. So when you're with your teams, how awesome is it? How amazing and awesome is it that you will be able to communicate with your team authentically, and your communication is not just respectful of each other, but it's also articulated in a way that says, hey, we're rooting for one another and we're here for each other. I think that when those communications improve, then your communication with the people you serve will improve, and whatever product that you are placing, whatever product that you have created for the people, for your clientele, for your customers, for whoever, for the community that you serve, that improves, because it all starts in the inside and then moves out to the people around you. So this is why we always say, from the inside out, love, lead, and live from the inside. Live, love, lead from the inside out.
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about, who we really focus on a lot, people know that, I don't know how many people know the data about, frontline leaders. I think, when we first started, when I really was interested in really understanding, like, who do we really want to speak to? And I we've worked with, senior level execs, we work with, middle level execs, frontline leaders. We've worked with a vast variety of leaders at different levels. I started really researching, and I asked myself, who has the yeoman's job, of work, the biggest pot of work, and responsibility in an organization, yet they are invested in the least. And it's frontline leaders.
And they also get, I'm going to tell you this too, Glenn, they're also the least noticed or recognized for their greatness.
Yeah. So listen, frontline leaders, there's a study done. DDI does an annual study on frontline, on leaders and leadership. And, I think their recent one said that, frontline leaders basically account for around close to 80% of every business operation. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So their responsibility, frontline leaders being, like a shift manager, a middle kind of tier supervised leader, typically possibly is, again, non-exempt, clocks in, clocks out, but they supervise people, a swath of people. And those swath of people actually they impact the company or organization to, again, a degree around 80%. So 80% of the business is touched by this group of this workforce. Those same leaders, those frontline leaders, are those leaders receive less than 30% of leadership development experiences, learning and development experiences. So if 80% of your business of 80% of your business basically comes under the auspices of this leader, this workforce group, yet you give them less than 35% of the development,
right?
There's a problem there, right?
And
there's an opportunity there, right? And so for me, and I think for what we've done here around the Heartwork profile, is that, listen, anyone can access the profile, right? Anyone can take the profile. But more importantly, if you're in the service business, if you're in the business of serving people, and this is definitely about people that connect with people, right? Especially frontline. You can be a frontline leader in a lot of different veins, but if you're one-to-one, person-to-person, and this workforce is connected to your clientele, your customer base. When you think about the expressions, when you think about gratitude, purpose, love, joy, mindset, design thinking, resilience, perseverance, heart intelligence, when you think about those expressions, you got to know, we want our frontline leaders, those essential leaders, like some people call them essential workers, I call them essential leaders, want those folks, you want them to show up as their best selves, right? You want them to show up as people who understand grace, right? You want them to show up as people that understand patience, right? You want them to show up as people that understand love, right? Because if you understand love individually, personally, then you can show up and understand how love translates to someone else, right? And because of that, I believe that the Heartwork profile is something that allows for any leader, but specifically those leaders who have this major responsibility, yet are often not seen or heard. And
they're normally just given a manual.
Yeah.
And they're told and they normally get promoted because they've done a great job. They stand out among their peers.
Yeah.
Working. And so they didn't really take a course or anything or get into a pipeline. What they did was they weren't on the bench for leadership. They just showed, they showed that they could be a more efficient and effective worker than their peers. And so they were placed there, but they weren't given the skills to actually lead.
Yeah, in many cases.
Their peers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, or the people who, look up to them, and so because of that, they just kind of, like we were talking about being parents, they just kind of go at it with what they think may work. And when they're not heard, when people are not, don't really know an alternative way to lead other than, giving out commands or demands and consequences, rather than actually coming in with their heart
Yep.
and developing relationships with people. They don't really know how to establish that among people that's supposed to look up to them or look to them for support.
Definitely. And I mean, I think, listen, I mean, we wanted to jump on and really, again, give a good backstory to, like, just how did we get to this point?
Yeah.
But also, talk about, the reality of that the abnormal is really not abnormal. The abnormal is the normal. And and that heart-centered leadership is definitely, it should be the normal. It should be it's the natural. And we know that there's a ways that we have to go to kind of, I think, again, program our mindsets and our heart sets around how we show up at work. Because love, as Steve Farber says, love is just damn good business. And if you can get your head wrapped around it, understanding that when people feel valued, feel cared for, feel loved, feel included, that like your business is going to shine. And and there's just nothing else to it. It's pretty simple. It's going to shine. And so that's the journey. That's the experience. And that's what the Heartbroken Profile is about. And we're going to make sure that we continue to educate and share and speak it into existence.
It is done.
It is done.
So it is done. So, Glenn, are you super excited? I am so excited about the launch of the profile. Until I just can't stand it. I am so excited about the launch of this profile that I can't stand it. I believe this is our first, not just our first step, but our first of many other steps that we're taking to reach our goal of reaching a billion people. And I'm just super excited about this. Yes, Jamila. I'm excited about other things too, Jamila. But yes, so thank you so much. So did you want to say any final words, Glenn?
Yeah, look, I think, what I'm excited about is
Jamila.
What I'm excited about, honestly, is definitely the assessment and the launch of the assessment. But what I'm mostly excited about is, I just believe that every single human being is inherently built great. And because of that, we were created on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. And specifically because of that, we have a job to do here. And that job gets lost in so many ways that has nothing to do with, why we were created. And I think it's time for us to really take a hard look of the time that we have here on Earth, to look and reflect, get into recovery and discovery, and understand that greatness, greatness is though we're built great, greatness is earned. And earning it means, using your gifts, leaning into those gifts that you have, that literally can shift the world. And I mean that in a way that's not, hyperbolic. When our gifts meet the world needs with passion. we are in an abundance.
We are.
Okay. And so for me, the profile is one step. The Heart Work Profile is a step of many for us to give people permission to go be great.
To go be great.
I look, listen, if you need permission to go be great, come join us. But I'm gonna tell you something, you really don't need permission.
Nope.
But if you need permission, this is your permission. The Heart Work Profile gives you all the permission you need. It gives you the research. It gives you the data. If people say, "Well, I need the data," we give you the data.
We give you the data.
When people say, "Well, I need to see it in writing," we give you the language.
Writing. You can print it out. Look,
you can print it out. We give you the language.
You can save it to your files.
Look, we give you what you need. But at the end of the day, nobody needs anything to go be great. You don't need anything to go be great. I just want people to wake up every morning and start every day with a grateful heart and go be great. That's it.
Just enter into that space. Like I said, I started this off by saying, for a reason, that when we say grace, I want you guys to enter into this saying your grace. Every time when you take this profile, enter into it saying your grace, because you're going to eat. I'm going to tell you, you're going to eat. So, listen, if nothing else, I am excited about the healing process for this world.
Yep. We're going to give it. We're going to give you all you need. Yeah, we're going to give you all you need. We give you the tools. We give you all what you need and more. The job, the work, it's the responsibility of earned greatness that each individual in this world has within them. And to Jamila's point, we give you the tools. We can give you the tools. We give you the tools. We give you all of what you're gonna need and more. But I will tell you something. I'll tell you this though. This is what life is. Life is about chance and choice.
Chance and choice. Isn't that crazy?
Chance and choice. You got a chance.
I said that to someone today.
If you wake up, you got a chance.
If you go out and work, and if you go out and work, as my son's T-shirt should say, work the bank. That's your choice.
Listen. You got if you are blessed enough to wake up in the morning, you got a chance.
Make the right choice.
Make the right choices. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
And that's it. And the pastor has spoken. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much. I want to remind you that we're not just on Facebook anymore. We are also on LinkedIn, YouTube. Y'all, we're growing. We are expanding. And I want you to know, every time we expand, that's more people that can be healed, more people that we can come in contact with that'll think before they speak, think before they work, think before they do. And when people are happy, they work happy and they live happy, then they treat you happy. And then you can be happy. And it's an unraveling, it's a never-ending cycle. So we love y'all.
We love you.
We love you so much. We'll see you again next week at 6:30.
Go be great.
Be great.
Peace.
Peace.